Hockey's got something going on right now, man. The product's good, and these teams hate each other. Now, I'm not talking about you, Canadian division. That was the most boring-ass thing in the world. Yeah, you had some weird moments that caught controversy and things like that, but as far as the pace and the atmosphere, it just sucked. I mean, it just sucked. So Montreal comes by there. It's like, okay, we're going to win this thing. Cole Caulfield in there, young kid, just doing what he needs to do. Great play in overtime to Tyler Toffoli. So Montreal's moving on, and that's good. Like, in the hockey scope of things, like, you want that big dog team in there, man, original six team. They're going crazy in Montreal. They're, like, tearing down things, like, tone it down, okay, tone it down. You got to come over to the U.S. It's not just like walking the park where the guys in Winnipeg were just out, for the most part, out to lunch. The Sheffley thing just ruined them, ruined their soul. And Montreal just played a tight game, structured game, and Carey Price came up big when he needed to, and some of the guys scored when they needed to. But now you're coming over here, baby.
To the U.S. of A.
To the good old boys.
These colors don't run.
Yeah, come on over. Come on over, boys. I'm telling you. It's hard to predict anything, Charlie. I don't like being that guy. You know how it is. Sometimes I'll put my foot down on something when I said the Blues might lose the game. Like Deer Mate. Or when, like, I just know, like, the Colorado's going to spank the Blues. Like, it's just, you just kind of know sometimes. For the most part, you don't know a damn thing, okay? That's why I don't gamble. Maybe the father's trips, if the boys are somewhere and they got their daddies, they're going to win a game. You know, just like with the first game back in 2019, Charlie Marlow, when the boys were in Florida and all the daddies were there and they're down by 2. I remember being at Twisted Tree at the time with all the boys.
Ooh, great.
Watching these guys.
Great
oh,
restaurant.
Lordy. We had the back room hanging out, doing our thing, doing a draft for hockey, which I don't really skate anymore anyway. But here's the deal. Remember that game against the Panthers? They had their daddies, and they were down by 2, and they came back and won, and then they won like 11 straight after that. So if you're going to bet on a game, the daddies are in town. Other than that, I don't know. My point is, Montreal, you're coming over to the big boy league down here where the big boys play, and they're mean. I don't know. I'm not going to predict that they're going to get smoked because that just hasn't been like the trend lately. But they're going to have their hands full with whoever they play when it comes to Colorado and Vegas. And they better hope they keep kicking the crap out of each other and going to Game 7, which I think is going to happen. And I don't know, Charlie, but it's pretty interesting to see what's going to happen with these Canadian guys that have just been fluffing around out there like do-do-do-do-do. While meanwhile down with the United States, these guys are crushing each other, going 100 miles an hour, yelling, fighting, this, that, and the other. So I don't know if you see it like that, but I certainly do, Charlie.
So what you're trying to say is Canada doesn't know hockey. We know hockey in the U.S. of A., as Borat likes to call it, down here.
In fairness, how can you – it's not their fault when you don't have a team that's won a Stanley Cup in that long. I mean, it's hard when – it's hard to keep the love of the sport alive. Down here in America, we got like 20 straight Cup winners. So I mean, it is what we can do. I mean, it's really
okay. Wait, we cannot do this because I'm going to get like hate mail here.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
First of all, we all know that what percentage of all these Cup winners are from Canada? Probably about 70%. And then there's a bunch of Swedes and Finns and some United States of Americans and Czechs and Russians, and it's a great global game. Here's what I will say though. I'm gonna show some love to Canada, okay? Because I love Canada. I love Vancouver.
They have a great national anthem. That's about
great national anthem.
That's about it.
Russia's the best. Russia's the best. Go ahead.
Nope.
Love Vancouver. Love Toronto. Love Windsor as a young buck going up there, 19 years old, about 10 people per hotel room. Everybody throws about $8. The exchange rate used to be fantastic. $1 used to get you about $1.60. Now it's what, the same? Whatever. But this was back in like 2000.
You ready for this? You ready for this? They've won World Stanley Cup since I've been born.
Really?
World Cup.
Here's what I want to say, though. I actually, when Toronto struggles in the playoffs and everybody rips on them, I feel bad for Toronto, and which is the reason why I'm very happy for Montreal, because the markets, the fan bases, the franchises that live and die with this stuff. And I'm not trying to act like the Blues don't. The Blues are fantastic. It's great. But Toronto, Montreal, Original Six, when these teams don't do well, it's crushing to the entire city. I mean, it's part of who they are as people. So I love to see Montreal doing well. I've never been up there. I want to go up to Montreal. Hopefully one day I will. But knowing what hockey means to them, I think it's really cool when those fan bases are rewarded because you know it's very special.
100%, man. Charlie, before you go up to Montreal, figure out hockey first, play in the NHL, grow your hair out, and then you really have to go up there and creep around a little bit because that's when you're at the best. They know everybody. You go to Montreal during the regular season, like, you're forced to kind of go out. Like, it just invites you, like, come here, beautiful women everywhere. Come on. King Louis XIV brought them back in the day. Remember, Rock? We talked about that. Awesome town. Would I want to live there? Way too expensive. Crazy expensive. And even trying to get a job up there, like, you have to speak French, dude. Like, it's difficult in that aspect. But if you're a pro hockey player and you go up there, yeah, you're living the good life. Carey Price, he's living the good life. Josh Anderson, holy macaroni, he's living the good life. But when you don't do well, oh boy. The good thing is half of it's in French, and you're like, did he just bash me? I don't know. I'm not even going to try to read that damn thing. But and they're all over you.
Hold on, though. Hold on. Here's the thing. French is a beautiful language. Even though I don't understand it, I would prefer to be cussed out in French because I feel like it, even if they're saying awful things about me and they're saying the F word in French, it feels romantic, right? It feels important. So if you're going to cuss me out, please do so in French.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, my God.
Oui.
It's like a lullaby. Like, oh, thank you. Like, no, I won't kill your soul. Oh, and even it is kind of cool, man. Like, if you're able to speak French, like, you look kind of cool. Like, you just kind of look like, if that just popped up in a conversation when you're around people, they're like, well, interesting. Well, you're cool. Now, speaking Russian's a completely different story. Like, that language, that's really difficult. It's hard to understand. But I feel like French is like, you just sound more intelligent and like more like, oh, hi. I don't know. It is what it is. It always goes back to King Louis XIV. Okay, a couple other things here. Don't ever count out sweet Lou Lamoriello. Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk about him again. Boston down 3-2, baby. I like this Islanders team. They're not sexy. They're not flashy. But they have structure, and they're like, do what you're supposed to do and be a warrior, and these guys are. And that little Matthew Barzal is all over the damn place doing his thing. They're fun to watch. They're mean. They hit. They got a fourth line that crushes guys, that fights, that does. They got all the old school. Why do you think that is? Why does it still work? Why does of all these nerds that talk about we don't need big, what? It always works. Lou will always have some kind of identity on that fourth line. Always. He always has in every year he's ever been a part of GM, whatever it is, like he's always had it. I mean, he signed me and Eric Bolton, and I was on a two-way deal. He could have sent me down all year long in 2012, and he kept us both up. Like, he just loves that. But it worked. Like, if you have the right guys, it just works. And when you don't have the right guys, it doesn't work. But, they have a big, strong, solid team. And I hope they beat Boston. I'm sorry. I'm sick of watching Boston. Oh, that Brad Marchand's all over the damn place. Holy cow. See his sick goal last night, like dipsy doodle ya. But the big news is right now is Bruce Cassidy, who was bitching and complaining a lot when we played against him. Remember that, Charlie?
Mm-hmm.
Big time. Like, so he's complaining about the refs again, and I get it. They had 4 or 5 penalties and a couple things here and there. But the funny part is Krejci spears Barzal in the nuts, gets fined $5,000. And, like, Cassidy's like, I think the refs aren't as good as they should be. And he gets $25,000. Like, what kind of logic is that?
It's unfair.
You think so?
Don't you think?
$25,000? Well, what do you say exactly? Like, I just don't think they were on par or whatever the case is. I mean,
well, it doesn't seem like bad? It's that's a pretty nice way of saying it.
Yeah, I don't know. $25,000. I guess you just can't bitch about the refs. Although those refs are complained about a lot. What's that dude's name? He's a French guy, actually. Yeah, he's been getting complained about a lot. So it's going to happen. Next game, it's not going to be it's going to be the other team getting penalties. Man, it's just how it goes. Unfortunately, that's how it is. It's never an equal thing, right? Like it's always swayed in one direction for the most part. Driver Joe, Cam, you're so right on the Islanders. It will be so nice to see them win. Don't like the Habs sweeping and time off, but that's how it goes, Driver Joe. Yeah, I don't like any sweeps on anything, dude. Like, I want it to go, like, I don't have skin in the game. Like, you see all these guys, like, on Barstool and stuff, and they were going crazy about stuff. I'm like, how much money you guys got down on this? Is that what it is?
But what about just being a passionate fan? So I've also seen the Barstool stuff where they got the Islanders fans, they're at the bar. For the Bruins fans, they're at the bar, which is, I believe, one of the employees' dads.
Borelli?
Right. Owns that bar, and I think Barstool Fund helped them during COVID. So you have all of these Islander fans. And you know what?
Crazy.
To me, it's cool to see people so passionate about sports, because that's what we really love about sports. And I'm sure some of those folks did have some money on the games, but also you're diehard fans. So when you see the explosions at the bars where the second a goal is scored, everybody goes nuts. And the other thing is, you brought this up, but it's true, especially here in St. Louis, even though the Blues got them in the Stanley Cup final a couple years ago. Why would anybody, if you're not from Boston, why would anybody root for any Boston team? And I'm saying this, I love the city of Boston. I think it's awesome. I think they have great history and culture. Yep. But I'm 39 years old. So in my formative years, Boston wins everything. Ever since I've been about 20 years old. I know you had the Red Sox for years not winning at all, but since then, the last 20 years, they win everything. The Patriots win nonstop. The Red Sox, how many World Series they got? 3 or so, right? The Bruins have won. The Celtics won back in 2008. I never feel sorry for Boston sports fans. And if it's a series with a Boston sports team, even though I love Jason Tatum, so that might be different. If the Celtics are playing now, I would root for Jason Tatum. But other than that, if Boston's playing, I'm rooting against them because Boston wins too much and everything.
Are you going crazy though? That's
not at all.
That's also still theatrical too for Bart. They gotta pump it up and show the craziness. Like Witt and Biz are there, and Biz knows how to do it. But I bet you Witt's like looks around, like everybody's younger than me, and it's all dudes. And I don't really care about Boston, although he probably does a little bit because he's up that way, and he's got to kind of like just kind of do their thing. But that's all like yeah, man. I don't know. I look at it. These Islander fans, they won 4 straight in the 80s, dude, which is like absolutely, imagine that happening. It's just ridiculous. But then nothing, I mean, they went through weird times, dude. Weird times. 2002, they had a cool team where they lost, I believe, to the Leafs. Maybe they beat the Leafs. 93 with Pierre Turgeon, they beat Pittsburgh. I remember Turgeon on the podcast talking about that, and then he gets hurt in that, I believe, next series after that. But then they had horrible ownership. Mike Milbury there signing Rick DiPietro, had him on the podcast. Awesome dude. He's still getting paid like 1.7 schmel until he's like 58. They paid him to a 15-year contract, which a goalie, and he got hurt the whole time. Then you pay Alexei Yashin to a monster contract, and he was a bust. A bunch of things. Milbury, this, that, and the other. We had who was the other GM for the Rangers that we had on that was working that group, and he couldn't stand Milbury. I mean, it's just on and on and on crap. John Tavares leaves you, and they burn. And, dude, I'm telling you, when I played with the Devils and we'd go to the island, we'd stay at this crappy-ass hotel right next to the Coliseum. Now, you have to walk through the fans to get to the Coliseum. And all the big guys like Marty would get like an Uber, a half a mile and go. But I'd walk through the fans. And they honestly were so cool. Like, the Philly fans are hardcore. And I'm telling you, man, I'd walk through, talk to all of them. I'd see the same guys. They get pissed at you and chirp you and this, but it was all, they were psychos. And they treated Kate great, and all my buddies that would go there, because we'd always play the Islanders, I felt like 80 times a year in that crappy Coliseum. But, man, I don't know. I'm kind of rooting for them, man. Those hardcore guys up there, they love the Islanders. They've seen greatness, and they haven't seen it in a long time. And not to mention my boys, the leader over there, and I root for Lou Lamoriello no matter what. So that's what I'm doing, baby.
Cameron, you're 100% right, and here's the difference. The Boston teams, they've won a ton recently in the last 20 years. Everything. So even though Montreal, what do they have? Like 24 cups. I know they won a million cups back in the day.
93 last year.
But they haven't won since 92, 93. So even though they're this ridiculously successful franchise, if you're our age, I mean, you haven't seen this team really ever win. I don't remember them winning. I was about 10 or 11 years old when they won. I mean, you don't remember the Montreal Canadiens winning a Stanley Cup. Same with the New York Islanders. When you talk about going back in the day to all the cups in the 80s, even like an Edmonton team, I mean, with Wayne Gretzky. I was born in 1982. I would love to see these teams win, even though they have tons of success back in the day, we haven't seen it in 35, 40 years, which rolls us into an interesting topic that I'm sure Matt Rocchio might want to get into. And Cam, I know you love the NBA, but this is also happening in the NBA, which is why I think this playoffs is really cool for both sports, because look at the remaining teams in the NBA. Nets never won a title. Hawks, the last time they won, they were the St. Louis Hawks in 1958, okay? Never won a title in Atlanta. Jazz, no titles. Suns, no championships. Nuggets, no titles. Clippers, no championships. You have two teams that's won a championship. The Philadelphia 76ers, that was in 1983.
Ooh.
And the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971. Aren't you tired of seeing Celtics, Lakers, Heat, Warriors every single year? So we're going to have a champion in the NBA that's either never won a title or hasn't won a title in about 40 years, close to it.
Yeah, that's good, man. NBA needs that, dude. That's you sick of seeing the 4 in a row. That's not happening in the salary cap era anymore. With you got to be really, really good. You know, obviously Chicago was for a while there. LA did a couple things. Pittsburgh, Detroit, but it's just tough, man. And if you have you don't have to have all the superstars. You just have to have the right chemistry with the right structure and a goalie that knows how to stop the right pucks at the right time. I mean, I know I'm simplifying everything, but if you watch some of these games, like, Islanders find ways to just pressure you. And they got like Andy Green, who I played with. They had Travis Zajac, who I played with the Devils. Go on out there, and Ludus knows how to fill in these little spots with this guys that he knows exactly what he's going to get out of them. Like, I'm going to block that. I'm going to win that face. It's so meticulous in a weird way without having a $12 million dude, cruising around doing their thing and getting 190 points in the regular season, but this gets pushed off the puck every 2 seconds because you got a bunch of guys, junkyard dogs you're playing against, man. Unless you have Boston where they got a mixture of both, It's really, really complex, but it's really cool to see, and good for the NBA. And I got a couple of questions about Kevin Durant, but let me get into a couple of other things.
Hold on real quick. One more point on that. I think you made a great point, because you're not going to have teams win the 4 straight like the Islanders and Edmonton back in the day, back in the 80s, or if you go way back to Montreal and winning it every single year. But I do think what we're seeing now, the dynasties are a little different. The dynasties are more, if you're a very well-run franchise in hockey and you have a superstar or you have superstars, your dynasty is more like, hey, if we have this generational talent like a Sidney Crosby, if he plays for 15, 20 years, we can win 2 or 3 cups, but it's probably not going to be back-to-back. But it's going to be 2 or 3 cups over the course of 10 years. We've seen that, whether it's Chicago with their run, whether it's Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, right? Even the Detroit Red Wings, they were really, really good for 10, 15, 20 years, and they won a bunch of cups spread out. Look at the Devils. The Devils with Brodeur were fantastic for 15 years, and they won 3 cups spread out. So I think in the salary cap era, it's hard for a team for 2 or 3 years to be the best team in the league, because you might run into a team like the Colorado Avalanche where this year everything sets up from a contractual standpoint where it just makes sense. But if you're really, really good for 10, 15, 17 years, you're probably going to win 2 or 3 cups.
I kind of think the opposite of that, man. I think you have a better chance when you have young guys on their entry-level contract in the new NHL with the salary cap, and you have your big dogs not signing that big contract yet, and you have this like a mixture of of guys that you haven't signed, and then you're able to get it 2 out of 4 years, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got to pay this guy, can't do that. We got to pay now. Now you got 2 months, and it all depends on if your 2 big boys are like Draisaitl and McDavid. They're making a ton of money, and then it's hard to disperse the rest of that cap. I don't know, man. I think that teams can go all in for 3 years when you got the right product up and coming on an entry-level deal, or maybe that next deal, whatever, a bridge or whatever it is. And then, you kind of, have to rebuild and refocus, and then your older guys are getting older, but they're still making $11 million, so you're just, cap hurt. But I don't know. It's one big math problem that I don't like figuring out, okay? You know, that's why Doug's got his probably Poindexter on one side and Poindexter on the next side, and they're like, this is what we're going, da-da-da, where, you kind of have to be that way. So, I don't know, man. It's difficult, but you have to have that cap, or these teams will just, pay whoever. I mean, think about that back in the day. I mean, you have coin, you're getting the big boys, although it didn't work for, New York for a while there. But anyway, a couple other things before we get going. Let's see what my.
Oh, we're going, baby. We're going.
We're going. It's kind of a weird day out. Kind of gloomy and muggy as all hell. Ugh. I got my walk in. It's all good. Kadri suspension. He ain't coming back until Game 7. This series, dude, Vegas and Avs. I mean, that is just these two teams. I don't know, man. They're really good. And the Avalanche just can't figure it out yet. Vegas, everybody's counting out Vegas because they got stomped in the first game. They could have won the second game. But now they're they creep back. Now you're damn, now here's a team that I remember seeing in the regular season. Big, tough, fast, structured, goaltending, Petro, Marchessault. Damn, they're just fun. They're just fun teams to watch. Packed house, crazy, fans going nuts, doing crazy things. It's just an awesome, awesome product with these two teams going at it. I hope they play to Game 7. And then come on down, Montreal. Come on down. Patty and the Canes tonight. We'll see what happens with that. Tampa's going to spank them. Let's be honest here. I mean, they're going to beat them. Let me get to a live read real quick. I don't know what else to say about that, to be honest with you. Tampa you can't. The Canes might squeak one out here, dude, but Tampa's just that good. They're that good. They're okay, you scored 2 spot. Oh, that's fine. Coochie, where you at? Okay, go out there and do your thing. Okay, Braden Point, go make a highlight reel goal. Go ahead. Hedman, skate up the ice, and Vasilevsky, be the best goalie in the world. Oh, okay, we're good. We'll win this game. There's no panic. That's a good sign. And the Canes are a damn good team. So they're going to win. It is what it is.